Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, this has been fun.
We were the gremlins.
This is fine. This is,
But-
for go ahead.
Listen, you're with people who stream to YouTube, so we
know.
can troubleshoot.
Yeah.
So what's
This is you're good.
what's funny about this is like I've always recorded for like later publication so I can edit, make sure it's sexy and like looks good, sounds good, right? But the one time, you know what? I'm gonna go live for the people, and 25 minutes later, so we exist.
Now, you're not showing us your screen in Discord.
That's exciting.
Is it going to cause?
Yeah. No. I just haven't done it yet. I didn't want to like break the system. So there you go.
Okay.
There we go.
Always break the system, Sulyce.
Oh my God. Okay. So let me get everything
We came out smarter.
Did we?
I learned a few things.
I don't know.
Sulyce lost a few years of his life.
I did. That's fine. So only 30 minutes late. That's cool. That's cool. Well, hey, welcome in, everybody. We haven't officially started the podcast yet, 26 minutes later. I hope everybody, so if you are in Discord and you're a supporter of the podcast, you've been with us this entire ride for the last 26 minutes, and I'm sorry for that. If you're on YouTube, welcome. We're going to get started here in a couple of seconds. I just want to make sure that things are buttoned up, so we don't have to do this again. All right, stand by. Goodness. Okay. What do you say we get ready to go? Everybody ready?
Sounds good.
Do it.
Better than ever. Let's go. Oh, that's good. Don't have administration on my stream deck. It's cool. We'll get there, guys. We'll get there.
Stream Deck also known to cause problems.
Yeah, and I thought it'd be a good idea to rebuild my computer tomorrow. So I'll be doing this all over again.
Just be gentle with it.
Hey, you know what? My last piece of my new computer came in today, so I'm.
Hey,
with
congrats!
You. I'll be there.
Nice.
I'll be building a brand new computer along with you.
Congrats! Well, good luck to you. Hopefully, your experience is better than.
Oh, everything's gonna break. It's gonna be awful.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's try this again for 10th time. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All systems active. Launch sequence activated.
Shout out to launch sequence.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium Games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and/or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radagast, and join us as we go beyond the verse. It's a long introduction, but I save it for special occasions. Welcome in, everybody, to Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast. I'm your host, Sulyce, and we have eventually made it to episode 100. Yes, 29 minutes late, but we're here. I think that's all that matters. Sorry if we lost anybody along the way. But ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing lineup. I am humbled and blessed to introduce you to my 4 guests for this monumentous occasion. First off, top left, we have Coniff, the sexiest voice in Star Citizen, professional artist and musician. Say hi to 82 countries. Go for it.
Hello. If you've ever seen that meme of the Hydra dragon thing, and there's like the 3 heads of the dragon that look all serious, and then there's the derpy one.
You're the derpy one.
This is a 5-headed dragon. 4 of them are serious, good-looking, intense dragons, and then there's me.
Then there's Coniff.
The derpy one. But I'm happy to be here among the Verse's finest folks.
Well, it's a blessing to have you. You were with us on episode 1 and 50. And of course, you've been with me since Elder Scrolls Online, 6-8 years ago at this point. So couldn't have this episode without you. I'm excited about what you'll contribute to today's show. Let's go top right, Space Tomato, a dear friend of mine. We'd probably be besties if we actually knew each other in real life. But Keenan, why don't you go ahead and say hello to everybody?
Hello, everybody. 82 countries. Good job, y'all. Keep tuning in. That's a lot of countries, man.
It's more than 81. Yeah, it's
Definitely.
it's a good number.
Probably more than I could name off the top of my head.
There's some I don't recognize. I'm not gonna lie. So welcome in. I hope you're enjoying it. Starjump Grim. You've been on this show 3 times, and I appreciate every single time you've ever been a part of it. Your intellect and your ability to create. The Fleet Viewer has impacted the community. You are amazing at what you've contributed. Say hello to everybody.
Well, thank you. Hello, everyone. That is single-handedly the best intro I think I've ever received, both in my hobby and professionally. So thank you. No, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Obviously, I feel honored to be on here with everyone. And congratulations, 100 episodes. That's awesome.
I appreciate that. I got my introduction from ChatGPT, so don't feel too special. So, and last but certainly not least, the AstroPub, man. You've been on for 2 episodes of this show, and you're actually the only one I've met in person. Out of the 5 of us.
It helps that we live really close to each other, so we end up with all of the meetups that go on in our area. We always end up in the same place, which is nice. So I hope to see you at International Bar Citizen Day for reference. But congratulations on 100 episodes. I do want to shout out to the I'm sure the one person you have listening to you in Tuvalu, since you had 82 countries. To the one listener in Tuvalu and the one listener in Kyrgyzstan. Congratulations.
I hope the video quality of my YouTube is sufficient.
And I do want to say, Coniff, I really appreciate you calling me a handsome, serious dragon, but I feel like this is that situation. It's more like, when the world is threatened and the only one to save it is 4 idiots, kind of thing. This is just that 5 idiots situation. The world is threatened and the only people who can save us is all these idiots. All of us.
I love that one.
Yeah.
To be fair, Paul, you were doing some heavy IT work before we went live. So,
that's the wrong part. I'm the one doing the IT work, and I don't work in IT. I work in education. Sulyce works in IT, not me. And
You were educating him on fixing his problems.
If I have any pull in the next couple of years, I'm working with OBS and YouTube and trying to unscrew whatever the hell that was. But the solution was restarting my computer. So whatever, that apparently is a thing.
Turn it off and on again.
Yeah, is your power plugged in? Yeah, that's usually the first question. So, well, welcome in everybody. We have a fun. I'm going to try to target an hour and a half. It's impossible with these jokers on, so we'll see hour and a half to 2 hours. But we want to go through where have we been in the last 2 years? Of course, framed around the existence of this podcast. But where have we been in the last 2 years? Where are we at now? Are we happy with the current state of our beloved game? And where do we see ourselves in the near future? Squadron 42 is out next year, knock on wood. 1.0 is probably another 5-10 years out. And I would love to pick everyone's brains here. These are the subject matter experts in the Star Citizen community, so I can't wait to get into it.
Opium experts.
Yeah. Yes, we have taken a couple doses of opium. So like we always do, I do want to go ahead and go through some of the comments from last episode. I do think it's important that we keep that tradition live. Is one of the things that I love doing with y'all. So bear with me as I have to reopen all of my pages that I had. But we had 6 comments. I did prep the audience from the last episode if you had a specific question that you wanted to ask this all-star panel. And so we'll get into that here in a couple of seconds. All right, first question, Floof Knight. Floof Knight. I love the name.
I know Floof Knight.
Oh, you do know
good people, yeah.
I'd call my dog Floof. So, all right, even though I haven't been part of the verse for very long, I've noticed some ships are completely useless, like everything from Drake, or redundant. Examples include the Cutlass Steel, the Scorpius Antares, and the Drake Herald. What ship?
Whoa.
I know this is going to rub people the wrong way. What ship would you want to see remastered to better fit into the game? Who wants this one?
I can start, but I'm gonna steal Tomato's quote.
Yeah.
Because Tomato likes to say this, and we've adopted this mantra in the Inforunners.
Which one is it?
Which is there are gonna be ships that have no purpose to you or that you do not like. It's going to happen because it's a universe. Like the Steel is, at least in my opinion, from my perspective, it's an NPC ship. It's designed for pirates to be flying it into a location and then disgorge the 50 reinforcements that are there to fight you in the middle of a raid or a boss fight or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were just like, let's sell it. Kind of, because CIG sort of has no filter with that. So they just kind of So like a lot of the ships that we may think that are useless are probably have some use internally at CIG or had some use at some point.
Yeah.
But I do think personally, the one that I think that has the most useless that was useful and then lost its use is the Vanguard Hoplite.
Okay.
Because the Vanguard Hoplite was originally supposed to be the dropship for Squadron 42. And then they made the Redeemer. And I'm not going to talk about the Redeemer.
We know you love it.
Because you're not going to get me on that one.
Really? Don't want to take
and then CIG even realized it was useless for Squadron 42. And so they made the Valkyrie. So like the Valkyrie ended up becoming that ship for Squadron 42, which meant that the Hoplite has been replaced twice, basically. It's so old. It's like, why do you exist? And I would take that ship and I would make it into a more of a gunship than it currently is, and or give it some stealth capabilities, some inherent stealth capabilities, because that way it would sort of have something across the lines between a prowler and a heavy fighter, like a heavy fighter that also happens to have some stealth capabilities and a ability to drop troops off, to be sort of like a special forces drop ship. Turn it into a little bird. Kind of thing, but a little bird if it was doing steroids.
Yeah. So Starjump, the AstroPub brings up a good point about redundancy, maybe, or like there's a lot of ships doing the same role. Drop ships. Do we need another drop ship? I feel like we have a lot of those. What are your thoughts?
I personally, I don't think we need too many more dedicated drop ships. I think we got a lot of coverage already. What I would prefer to see is the ability to, and I've said this before on my own streams regarding, tier, what is it, the lower tier medical beds, that I would love to be able to just plug in drop seats anywhere there's a cargo grid and make my own drop ships. Some of those type of gameplay loops that I think are more just about carrying capacity and life support and stuff like that. I would love to just be able to customize my own ships to that. So dedicated drop ships, no, they don't really appeal to me. But again, to each his own, and there are people that love them. So I just don't totally understand the cost premium that seems to be applied to drop ships across the board. So
sure,
yeah.
Space Tomato, the best ship in the game is clearly the Mako or the Mako, the media, PR.
We're reliant, man.
Clearly, that's the best ship in the game. That
whole ship series. I'm sorry. I think the most interesting redesign. I think the easiest thing CIG could do to save any vehicle in the game would be to just take the Rock DS and replace the mining laser with a tractor beam. I guess it wouldn't fix everything about that, but I just feel like that's such an easy thing to do to make it more of a two-person kind of vehicle than a one-person. with an extra seat that has more protection than the driver.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Yeah. Coniff, I mean, I asked everybody else, what's a worthless ship out there? Go on, man.
Okay, I actually have an answer to this because I always bring it to every org night if I have it. And it's the only ship that I will ever fly.
M50?
And it's the M50.
Yep. Worthless.
Do I bring it to bounties? Yes. Do I bring it to Jump Town? Yes. To what end? To get blown up. To crash into mountains.
I do know that about you. It is easy to escape. I will say that. Like if you're in a combat situation, no one's catching you.
True.
Like no one's catching you.
Out.
Yeah. Straight line distance. It can't move, but straight line distance is great. All right, so back to the quotes. Let's get through 5 more. Britton Sanders says, always excited to listen to the podcast. Recently tried the Golem, and is good for what it is, I feel. Very beginner-based and does its job for a beginner. Starjump, I can't wait to get to you and talk about some of these new ships that came out this year if we're happy where we're at. So we're gonna save that for later on in the podcast. Sure. Next quote, David Leppert says, thanks for the opportunity to ask questions. Here's a cue. With this year's emphasis on stability, do you believe the stability fixes will continue to work after they begin adding new features? I thought this was a great question. Like they say stability, yet we've got a lot of new content. This year. So where are we at? What's happening? Who wants this one? Space Tomato.
I guess I will, yeah. I'll
get it, buddy. Get it.
I do think there's a very real risk that they settle in on a really nice line of development for the PU, and 2 years down the line, the features are starting to come in hot and heavy again, and it's a little less stable. But I also think that what we're going through right now is it's kind of like reaching a little resting point when you're hiking up a mountain. Like they're not gonna hit this point and then add features and fall back down in instability. I think we're hitting a plateau here, and from here they're going to build on it with more features eventually. It could be engineering, it could be Death of a Spaceman. Like I'm not saying those are the guaranteed additions, but it could be a whole wide range of things. I don't think those things are going to take us back to like pre 4.0 instability. I think we'll have different glitches and we'll have different bugs that pop up, but in general, the things that we have problems with now that are like really fundamental, your inventory not being able to track things, elevators not being able to go places correctly, your ship falling through a freight elevator, those are the kinds of things that they're really trying to get squared away now that I think won't necessarily be huge problems in the future alongside those other glitches we might get.
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, I thought we were done with the elevator issue and that came back. So had a horrible experience. Yeah, Grim, what's up, man?
Well, I just think, and this is not a knock on CIG. Actually, if I was the powers that be there, I would do the exact same thing. But fundamentally, I think the stability issue is a short-term issue for CG or CIG for just that they're focusing on for the moment, because this game has to be playable in the lead up to Squadron 42. It just has to. I've worked 25 years in marketing. That's what I do, film and television. And you are not launching a AAA game with a broken alpha that no one can play. They've got to get it playable to where every Squadron 42 article or interview isn't laced with negativity surrounding Star Citizen. Yeah. And again, it's not a knock on CIG. I think it's a good marketing decision to focus on stability. It's going to help in other areas too. I mean, I don't want to say that's not going to help for just engineering stuff and all the other things they're trying to do on the back end of the game. But ultimately, I think the goal with this is a short-term thing to make sure this game is mostly playable for this year and predominantly next year. I think they're going to want it to be pretty stable. So. Yeah,
absolutely.
Now imagine if they had launched Squadron in 2019 with the PU.
Well, yeah, we'll get into a little bit of the last couple of years. I started recording. This is funny. My first episode ever was 10 days after 318. So I had plenty of content to last us for quite some time. So yeah, it's been fun.
That was the beginning of an era.
Yes, it was. Error or era?
Era.
All right. Dakota Riley writes, congrats to being on the cusp of episode 100. 2 years of an amazing podcast. Thank you. Is no small feat, and building an equally amazing community throughout the time is even more difficult. Can't wait for what's in store for the next 100 episodes. Also, it's funny that you mentioned the Caterpillar's elevators because they are in this patch, though the elevator raise and lower functionality is tied to the doors opening and closing still. Yeah, so this is like last episode I was talking about how the elevators are using the cargo ships, which is the best cargo ship and why it's the best cargo ship, and how I want the Caterpillar to be like optimal, right? Like I want it to be working. But the elevators, even in its newest state, it's just a pain in the ass, right? It's just a pain in the ass to operate. Yep. And so I guess real quick to Starjump Grim, like, why can't we fix elevators, man? You're the ship guy. Can you go in and fix it for us real quick?
Well, yeah. Let me get on that. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the episode. I'll just go off the stage left here and get work on it. No,
Yeah,
I mean, there's quite a few ships actually that need multi-stage animation. On things like wings and landing gears and elevator doors and stuff like that. And hopefully they'll start to integrate that. There's a lot of other work on ships that we were supposed to get at one point, like ground alignment on elevators and ramps. Again, we haven't seen that. So, there's still, when you go back to that first question you had about ships, the Caterpillar's probably my ship that I really want to get some love. It has the most potential and is in one of the worst states. But we may get that with the Ironclad's development. It makes a lot of sense for them to be fiddling with the knobs on the Caterpillar. So drink some hopium on me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that like detachable pod that is interchangeable, that's gonna be kind of fun.
According to John Crew, he said that was going to be working on the Caterpillar when the Ironclad comes out. So we'll see. We'll see. It's not a promise.
So, Coniff, we're seeing the Ironclad this Invictus launch week, right? Is that no? Okay.
I have no.
I'm trying to get some. Go ahead, please.
People got mad at me because I was like, we're not seeing the Caterpillar until this fall, and they're like, but John Crews said they were working on it at this point, and it's going to be like 18 months, and it's like, yeah, but
it's good.
We haven't seen it, and CIG is notoriously like, I don't want to say arrogant because arrogant's the wrong word.
Yep.
Swaggerous. I've used
the making words now.
They have swagger.
I like that one.
They love to swagger when they have something. They're like, yeah, you look what we have. Hence, like the Perseus being shown off in silhouette on that one recent Star Citizen or Inside Star Citizen. It's like they're clearly going to show off the Perseus in some way.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
it wasn't. We know that it's not going to be live because of the last month report. But like the Ironclad is still a ways away, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that too. So
I also hope that the whole movement towards stability, we're seeing things like the Carrack getting its doors and shutters done. We're seeing the Caterpillar getting its doors down. That I think a lot of it is these less of a focus on stability and more of things like that, where like CIG said, we'll do it later. Now is later. So it's time. Now is the time to do the things that they've been saying to do later. So
see, I view those as playability kinds of things, and that's the playability that you don't really think of when they say playability. But it's like fixing those little issues that have been plaguing people for years.
Installing like component bays on the F7C, which hasn't had a component bay since the release the last year. So like just opening the bays, filling them out, kind of thing.
Yep, absolutely. All right, 2 more quotes. Cody Laneship, if I butchered your name, forgive me. Super excited to be a part of this community. Now I feel bad. Looking forward to eventually joining you guys in game. Question, Coniff, this is going to go to you first.
All right.
If there was one role or space job, so to speak, that could get a complete overhaul for playability and content, what would you choose to be worked on first for role or space job?
Well, is data running in the game yet?
No.
Okay, then that one.
No.
But,
not really, no.
But also, but like the idea of exploration, because you can fly to a place, you can land there, get out, take a look, whatever. But doing stuff with the exploration pieces of a ship, what is it? One of the origins has like an entire. There's probably several, right? I have no idea, but there's parts of ships or rooms in ships that are built to be navigation focus or exploration focus.
The Carrick, for sure.
So that type of stuff I would love to see, especially with them adding another system. I don't know what that looks like, if it's just go here and scan this and learn some stuff about the planet. I don't know, but that type of stuff, just where you're, incentivized to fly somewhere and take in the sights.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of approaching or having like an Orgonite where you're approaching a system that's not charted. It's not on your star map. You have to actually scan it. You have to like figure out what minerals and assets are on. You're on the spacecraft and it gets communicated back to your org. Like I can see this being a pretty intricate game loop. And Carrick has a drone room. Like I think it'd be really awesome whenever they equip drones and have that execute. But yeah, it's not a bad one. Not a bad one. Anybody else?
Yep. Current in-game rules, I don't know if I have one right now because I feel like they're also kind of in progress. But ultimately, and we'll probably cover a little bit of this later, there are game rules, though, that I think are going to be almost unavoidable in terms of like you're going to need to interact with them to some degree.
Yeah.
I think one of those is manufacturing, and I can talk about that more later. But, once we see more of that, those kind of core gameplay loops come into the game that we're still waiting on, things like scanning, resource management, and even other just career stuff like data running and all that. I think we're gonna have to let the dust settle, and we're gonna have to see where all of them are at to understand which ones really need the most attention, because it's not just about so much how well the loop operates on its own, but how well that loop then loops into other gameplay loops and loops into other gameplay loops, and that we're just not going to know for a while. So yeah, that's
I
thoughts.
was going to jump in and say basically, like a good example. I'm a smuggler. I'm a legitimate businessman who works in gray markets. Okay, it's what I want to do in the game, but that's going to require stealth gameplay to work. It's going to require scanning gameplay to work. It's going to require the new quantum systems to work, and all of those things need to be in place. I can technically take stuff that is not sellable on legal markets and then sell them in other locations, but that's just trading with all the added aspect of it's illegal. Like there's not even scanning in the game anymore. Like you don't get stopped and scanned by NPCs anymore. It's not in the game. So it's just sort of like trading by any other name. But the same thing goes with like bounty hunting. Bounty hunting requires actual full bounty hunting implementation, will require scanning and disabling people, disabling ships, that all of those sorts of things. So it's hard to like tell exactly what loop needs to be fixed when just half of the loops don't have their features yet. So.
Yeah, the interdependency in this game is going to be crazy. Like when you're talking about like selling, like Paul is, it's like, okay, you want to sell stuff. We also need the stuff where you can like maglock things and sell them that CIG's talked about. We also need the ability to we have to have beacons that we can set up to advertise where we're at, that people can target. There's just so many hooks into different loops to different loops to different loops to different systems that some of them seem a ways away until we can properly kind of judge them.
To add some hopium into this, though, we also know that scanning, engineering, quantum, the new quantum travel, and Maelstrom are all implemented in their main branch. It's just that CIG hasn't pulled from that main branch since like October for the game. Right. So they're hopefully when they actually get away from just fixing the problems they have now and start implementing new things, when that happens this year, next year, whatever, that's when you'll start seeing more of that stuff being in. So we'll start to see those loops being updated. Yeah, the basic stuff of those. So
yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, absolutely. So to segue into our first segment, I do want to do a giveaway. So we have been tracking for over 2 weeks now. Go to the website. This was how you entered, but we're giving away a Golem with lifetime insurance plus the digital copy of Star Citizen. So bear with me as I'm going to take over the screen. I do this every time so my 4 guests can laugh at me if they want to, but I'm all about transparency. This is how I do this. So here's your spreadsheet of over 150 entries. I literally use an Excel spreadsheet. I literally go down and enter a random number in between this.
You don't get enough Excel at work.
Okay, what's funny about that is like I love Excel. I actually do.
I
So
feel the same.
I don't mind this at all. At all. So here we go. Here are your top individuals. Let's go to the largest, and the winner is Dansek. Dansek, heard about this on the website. Congrats on the brand new Golem with lifetime insurance. And we do have another giveaway from Groza. We'll do that later on in the show between other segments. But congratulations to Dansek. Let's get into the first segment, guys. I want to talk about where we've been. I want to go back 2 years. Again, this is 318. I don't necessarily want to talk about 318. But it was all back in 318. We had persistent entity streaming hit, and the rest is kind of history, right? New ships, new technology, new missions. So we're actually going to start over here with Coniff. Looking back at the last 2 years, you've been on this journey with me since day one. You are the reason. So sorry, community. You are the reason that I got into this game and started making content. How has the game changed for you in just 2 years? I know you've taken a break from time to time. I know you're dabbling in other games, as if I think most of us have done that as well. But has the game moved in the direction that you've wanted it to move?
Well, the short answer is yes, because it's far more playable than it was 2 years ago.
Yes.
But not just playable, there's more to do. So that's kind of the biggest piece for me, is that looking as a casual player, I hop in, I figure out how to get from Orison into, atmosphere. And then there's a lot more opportunity to bounty hunt or go explore. There's far more locations now on planets than there ever has been. But with the Oregon, we're going to get into that later. There's a lot of opportunities to just exist in someone's world as a crew member.
Yeah.
So that's the short answer, is that it's gone in a good direction.
Yeah.
317 is when I started, and for a brief moment it was fine, and then there was a bit of a era in 317 that was rough. We had a buddy of ours that we could all group up, and it's very demoralizing when all of your friends can group up, but there's one friend that
can't, for whatever reason.
Can't reset character, whatever, could not group up. So we went through that, and then 318, and the rest is history. But now it's significantly improved.
Yeah. What about the rest of you? Are we happy with the last 2 years? I know we've had some downfalls, right? I know there's been some hiccups, but I feel like we've made a significant obviously core tech. I think that's the obvious low-hanging fruit that we can talk about. But the core tech with PES and server meshing, I think that's all been a great success. But I don't know. It's 29:55. Well, how are you feeling?
To me, the last 2 years has been dominated by Pyro.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing updates upon updates upon updates, and obviously that was part of server meshing, but Pyro was sort of the visual representative of the oncoming server meshing tech. So there were times where it felt like, okay, it's coming. I can't take any more Pyro. I'm just too much. I don't want to hear about it anymore. So when it finally did land, it was for me, it was more of a relief that it wasn't even really excitement that like, oh, okay, cool, I can go to Pyro now. It was more relief that like, okay, we finally got over this hump. You know what I mean? For better or worse, and maybe we're about to go into a period of worse, right? Because it was very unstable when launched, but we still got over the hump, and that was a good feeling and left a positive, kind of taste in my mouth. And then probably the other thing for me was CitizenCon last year, finally getting an understanding of what CIG's vision for this game was Probably the biggest thing for me over the last 2 years, just surrounding even over like playing the game and making content for the game and stuff. That panel for me was probably the biggest and most important thing to happen. For me over the last 2 years, it just sort of re-solidified that this is the game that I've been waiting for. So.
Well, you said the magic words, and I'm going to throw it over to Space Tomato for his reaction, but CitizenCon going to direct. I mean, I don't want to like take away from the last 2 years, but like it almost looks as though we're kind of moving to a digital age. Is this just for this year, or do we think the future of CitizenCon will be digital? I know it's fresh. Ribbon that made it.
Is this for me or Grim?
No, for you, Space.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think we're going digital. I think this is something that they're doing because they are in crunch. They're in, and Star Citizen, just like their development cycle, their crunch period's also probably a lot longer. Like they just really need to get Squadron done. They really need to get the game in a good spot. And they really need to probably save a little bit of money doing that. And
it's fair.
They can very easily get the marketing out of a digital CitizenCon that they would have anyways.
Yeah.
So less time off of devs' work, less time of trying to prep for a big event, less money in the pockets of all the Star Citizen people who are trying to fly across the world to go there. For a year like this, it makes sense, but I do think that they understand the importance of the community and getting people together, and I think they'll still do Citizen Cons going forward. Yeah,
really hope so. Right? Like I really hope so. Actually, like I remember you and I talked about this. Like I saw you, we didn't know each other at the time, so I was like I wasn't gonna be that guy. But now, like I would love to meet y'all in person. Right? This is the chance to do that. Right? So yeah, missed opportunity, but I totally get it. I'm right there with you. Paul, before we move on, any reactions to the last 2 years? Are we happy where we're at? Content, maybe is the better word.
I mean, I think the last 2 years have been the most important years at Star Citizen ever. And I think the one thing that when you zoom back and look at the last 2 years of content that CIG has produced, it is an insane volume of things that they've managed to do. Core tech, and not just core tech, but overhauls of pretty much every system in the game. And especially when you're super zoomed in, like a lot of content creators and a lot of people who follow the game regularly see, they go like, why is it taking them so long? But like, and I would say the general feeling of this community from last year was negative, that they felt like last year was a bad year for CIG or for the game in general. But when you actually look at what they added and the stuff they've managed to release, it's an insane amount of things, which were all very positive aspects to the game. It was just that CIG fumbled the presentation. They fumbled the promises and how things were. And that I think that's what this year has been about. It's been about reevaluating how they communicate and also reevaluating what they're doing in terms of how they're presenting. And it's clear that they're preparing for like Squadron and stuff like that. So the last 2 years have been very important learning lessons for CIG.
Yeah. For
them figuring out how to manage 4 different countries, 2 different continents, 1,000+ staff member team, which I don't think anybody in that team has fully done something like that. So learning ins and outs of those sorts of things. For better or for worse, CIG expanded very fast, and now is trying to figure out, well, how do we manage very fast? How do we manage this huge team?
Yeah.
And I think they're getting better at it as they go, and the game is improving for it. It is night and day. The 318 was 2 years ago, I think. Was March of this time 2 years ago, and I've been seeing people come back to play when 4.0 released. They said, I stopped playing at 318. I started playing at 4.0 again. It is much better. Night and day difference in terms of their experience. So it's been a good 2 years and an important 2 years.
Yeah. No, I think significant growth. Now, I initially wanted to compare this to like World of Warcraft. Like I know that game's been around for decades. Like I know guys, I know. But like when a DLC comes out or an expansion comes out, it's like new makeup on the same pig, right? But in the last 2 years, like this game has transformed. It's not recognizable in my opinion. It's not recognizable from the 316, 317 days when I first joined. So I'm in full agreement. A lot has changed in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Keenan, I'm curious in the last couple of years of patch updates and dev cycles and all the core advancements. What advancement or technical breakthrough do you think moved the most? I think there's an obvious answer, and I'll pivot if you give the obvious answer. But what moved the needle the most in your opinion?
I know the obvious answer. I kind of want to disqualify server meshing because that's too easy.
Yep.
If you don't say hover mode, then I will.
Master modes. Master. No, I'm sorry.
No, it's contested zones, of course, PvP.
Oh, of course.
No, I actually want to say Gen 12 and their rendering improvements have kind of quietly gotten everybody. Okay, not everybody. I'm sorry, folks. It's quietly gotten a lot more people into acceptable frame rates in most parts of the game, and it's easy to forget, but that was like the main thing that pissed people off for quite a while. It wasn't the servers being desynced. It wasn't the elevators being a problem. Those were still problems, but the main problem most people had was just that the game wouldn't run. And once you even got into the game, it was hitching, it was lagging, things were like really glitchy visually, and that's better now. It's still not perfect, but I think that has been a very, very good technical improvement that just in general gives people a little bit of a better first impression of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Coniff, you've been taking a break from time to time. I don't think maybe you've been playing every single day and you're inside of, all the different core advancements. Like, are you in agreement? Like, do you think that the frames per second, this core technique of rendering, has impacted your experience coming back and seeing, the new version of Star Citizen?
Well, the biggest example of that is Orison. I mean, prior to Pyro, you would land on Orison and my frame rate, and my computer's not like it's a 3090, an i9, like it's not like top of the line in today's world, but it was 2 years ago, and it was 30 frames, and so I had to set settings low just to get stability with frame rates. And now, I mean, I haven't had to touch that at all, and it looks just as good. It's from all that I can tell in what I do in the game, which is not like super involved flying or anything like that. Like, I've had 0 frame problems coming back.
Yeah. Until you're in a space battle in Pyro. And
They're getting it. They're getting it.
I haven't been there yet. So
you haven't been to Pyro yet?
I've been to Pyro. I was taken there through the wormhole. The music was great.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually, I don't want to get off topic, but that was really mind-blowing, that wormhole experience.
Yeah, it's amazing how something as small as a quantum jump, I know it's a jump drive, whatever, but a quantum jump, how they've totally changed that, and it's remarkable. I mean, I don't know how many months later, and I'm still enjoying going through a wormhole. So absolutely. Is there a patch, Paul? Is there a patch that you think we like underappreciated? Like we maybe look at, it's not
317.2.
Okay. Yeah, that was quick.
317.2.
Well, what happened in 317.2?
It's the patch that changed everything. It was the patch before 318 broke everything because it added. Well, remember there was a time in 316 and before that where we had like 50 people per server. 317.2 increased the capacity to 110 per server, and it also significantly improved performance. So people went from having maybe 30 FPS to with 317.2 it was solid 30 FPS pretty much everywhere, and it was really more dependent on your hardware because they just did some optimization in the background that accidentally made it so that you could play with 100 people in the server.
Yeah,
and that jump from 50 to 100 was so massive. You could actually play it. It was like 120 to 150 people in a server. They were able to do it, but they had some performance issues when like Siege of Orison was going on, so they dropped it back down to like 90 to 100. That stayed there until 4.0, and even then with 4.0, it's still pretty much that's the kind of the upper limit, and it's whatever they did with 3.17.2 just kicked it into that point. So people didn't think it was a patch, a really, really big patch, but like there was several stuff that they added and fixed around with 3.17.2 that would have been amazing. If it was 3.18, minus the things that they needed to add in 3.18, if it was just a mainline patch, people would have remembered it as one of the best patches they've ever made. But because it wasn't a mainline patch, everyone forgets it. But I remember because it came out in the butt end of August, and it was right before CitizenCon, and it was like, oh,
yeah,
glorious day. We have, we have a game suddenly.
Yeah.
It was also a really slow summer.
It was.
Because we were waiting for 3.18.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Grim, I want to go to you and kind of pivot to ships. Go figure, maybe the obvious choice here. but in the last 2 years, what do you think? Like, which ships do you think made the biggest impact on whether the community or game loop or Star Citizen as a whole? What stands out to you as the most impactful reveals?
Ship reveals? Well, with that, so it's actually kind of a recent one, and it wasn't originally revealed last year, but it was re-revealed last year, and I think the ship that's going to have the biggest impact will be the Pioneer for sure. Just because I fundamentally think that manufacturing and base building is going to be such a huge thing in the game, where even if you're not actively making that your gameplay loop, you're still going to have to interact with it in some ways. So I think the Pioneer for me has probably the biggest impact. It's also the ship that is certainly the only ship currently that is kind of the key to unlocking the end game space station stuff eventually through building the supply hub. So, there's a lot of ships in the game. Different ships mean different things to different people, and some people may think the Intrepid is the most important ship in the game, and that's totally fine, and that may be valid for what they're doing. But just like holistically, I think the reconcepted Pioneer, and it really is kind of a new concept. It is so different from the old one. But the new Pioneer, and by that effect, the Starlancer build, the CSV FM, and eventually that hover trolley, those base building and manufacturing vessels, I think, are going to be have the biggest impact on the game.
Sure.
Yeah.
You mean the Raptor didn't strike a chord with you?
Didn't strike a chord. No.
You don't want to mop up the floors as a career?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think the Atlas Geo maybe is in a good second place. I think it's shown that I think it's shown some new ways we can move around in the verse that we haven't done before, and I think people are pretty excited about that. Even just disregarding the fact that it's a mining focused mech, just its movements abilities and stuff like that, I think could signal some interesting stuff for the future. But yeah, overall, I think the base building ships, and specifically the Pioneer, will have the biggest impact. So
yeah. I know our org Soul Provision, like we're 100% about base building. Like the whole game can just go away at that point. We're going to want to build for sure.
If you watched Rich's presentation on 1.0 last year, one of the interesting things about that, and I think this could probably be controversial to some people, I'll love it because I do want to do the base building stuff, but when he was showing the gameplay loop on like how you were going to get the F7A Mark II to get the blueprints for that, it required building a fabrication hangar. Like that was part of the loop, right? You had to build this. Now you could go to someone obviously who has one, but it looks like CIG from that example is trying to make base building a core part of the gameplay loop, right? Yeah. That you have to interact with in some way, even if it's not you building the base. Maybe it's someone in your org or a friend or whatever, but I feel like it's going to be hard to sort of escape that if you're chasing blueprints and chasing, certain ships or certain vehicles or weapons or building blueprints, whatever it is. I feel like you're not going to be able to escape the manufacturing / base building component of this game. So
Sure.
but I could be wrong. I'm speculating.
Anybody else have any strong opinions about the ships in the last 2 years? Anything that moved mountains for you?
I think he's pretty spot on with the Pioneer.
Yeah.
Can't really think of anything that's had as big an impact functionally.
Can I be completely biased?
Let's go.
Here?
Please.
Let's go.
Okay.
Don't say the Redeemer.
Anybody who knows me knows that other than lore, one of my big passions in life is anything that has big stompy robots. So the fact that they added the ATLS and the Geo in the game, I'm like, cinema, absolute cinema.
Yeah.
More please, CIG. Please, I would like some more. Please give me the combat version of these. Please give me the salvage version of these. Give me a medical version. I don't care if it makes sense. I like big stompy robots. Give me one that's
got a lot of people.
Go
It's
ahead.
got a lot of people talking. I was watching your stream the other day, Paul, and you were talking about mechs, and the Geo has definitely gotten people talking, both inside and out of the game. So I could see CIG leaning on that. I could tell you, I just looked through the Evo files the other day with StarFab and with someone, and there's other references to other mechs. That's all I'll say. And I think the future
I've
is
seen
probably
those.
bright.
No
I think the
spoilers.
future's probably bright.
To give you context, the seemingly odd gunned up ATLS that's in the in Wickelow's Emporium has animation.
Yeah.
It is rigged for animation.
Yeah. And it's a slick
So-
model. Slick model. Yes.
So what are you trying to say?
I know
Paul?
a lot of people say the texture work was sketchy in Wickelow's, and that may be the case, but the model isn't sketchy. There was some work put into it. So
What
yeah.
I'm
Looks a
trying
little
to say
goofball to me.
is CIG, you will have my soul if you make a exclusive in-game battle version of the ATLS, which you can get through Wickelow's Emporium.
Yeah.
I will move
cool.
mountains. I will commit war crimes to acquire that back.
He has named his price, CIG.
Yeah.
Yes.
He wants to
Now-
relive Matrix Revolution.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to. If that thing had thrusters, it would be the perfect
now
ghetto version of the power armor from Starship Troopers. All right, being able to bounce around and just throw things. All right.
Now, Paul, as the lore
Perfect.
guy, though, are you going to demand some lore for Argo developing a combat-based
I mean, I
ATLS
love
platform?
He's gonna write it.
But I'm also cool with cool stompy robots. It's just
Okay.
like, hey, why does this thing have guns? Oh,
They can partner with Virgil or something, right? Can't they?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my
Kruger.
my headcanon is that because Virgil so famously took the industrial usage of the Titan suits, which is what we know now as the ITLS, and made a combat version, that the one that's the combat version was just some sort of prototype, little boy or whatever it was, like the first tank was, that sort of thing. It's just sort of a first attempt, a first pass at a combat version of this, where they just said, let's just throw some guns on this thing and see if it works. And so that's why Wickelow has it, is because it's a museum piece that he has sticking around that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that backstory. I'm just going to say, too, on the subject of mechs real quick before we move on, that I agree with Paul. And if there's one game I would like to be rebooted, it would be Chrome Hounds. So one of the best mech games ever. I'm just going to say that. One of my favorite games of all time.
Come on.
Yes.
FromSoft, come on. Going
Easy
back to your
win.
roots. You already did an Armored Core. Bring back Chrome Hounds.
Yes.
We are off the rails on this one.
We are. Sorry.
That's what happens when you bring up mechs.
Yeah, right. It's funny. I have the Geo, and I've used it more for the jetpacks than I have for its actual purpose. Like, I don't know. I just like I like the functionality.
You can wreck people with that thing.
Yeah.
By the way, it is deadly. It can kill in like one shot.
Yeah.
It's horrific. So take those out to the Hathor mining missions and just camp. Why
That's
not?
what I've been doing.
In my free time,
Because you could literally jump from rooftop to rooftop in those, and you're moving so fast that nobody sees. You look like a blur at first, and you're like, "Is that did something just jump across the screen, my screen?" And before they know it, you've lasered them to death. So,
oh man! All right, so let's actually stay with you, Paul, for the last question of where we were, and of course, I got to go lower with you, of course. Have you seen lore evolve in the last 2 years? I know you watch Galactopedia as a hawk, and I know you're paying attention. Do we think that we are in a different place than we were 318 with lore?
oh yeah, 100%.
How so?
CIG has done a very, very purposeful evolution where things like Pyro getting it's a full in-depth information. I know a lot of people will look at the Pyro changes as CIG retconned it, and they kind of did, and this is some of those. This is an interesting phenomena that I've noticed with people who follow the lore, like myself, that the average person who follows the lore is more into the sort of science of things. They're more interested in the science of the science fiction. So what the cool planets are and the animals and the ships and stuff. Whereas I'm coming from a historical background, I'm always interested in the drama, like the different factions and the history behind them and all this sort of thing. So I didn't really view it as a retcon as so much as a evolution, because all we knew before the change was there's some gangs there. They like to fight over it. Ruin Station's got some drug labs, and the Nine Tails, or not the Nine Tails, the Xenothreat are controlling Ruin Station.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, neat, kind of gets general vibe. It's bad. And since then, we've gotten the Prophet of Pyro, we've gotten the Headhunters, we've gotten the Horizon, we've gotten the Fire Rats, we've gotten the Citizens for Prosperity, we've gotten now the Frontier Fighters. All of these different groups vying for power. We know about Bloom, we know about Monarchs, we know all of the planets have gotten a little bit more why they exist, how they function, and some more culture behind them. And that's sort of an example of the CIGs going, okay, now we have to build a play space where players will interact and make it make sense in our universe.
Yeah.
And then they've been just jumping from there forward with, while I'm going to be frank and say bad implementation of narrative design with things like the Fight for Pyro, I think it was a first step in the movement of using the resources they have to tell stories. And since then, they have improved, leaning in on things that they're really good at, like environmental storytelling, where if you go to the Hathor mining stations, if you're interested in why Hathor was there and what happened to Hathor, you can find data pads, which will tell you everything you need to know through the force of a very diegetic media, because it's all emails and posts notifications to employees to let them know what's going on, where you can see the slow decay of Hathor to the point where they're effectively trapping their employees by refusing to pay them and not giving them the ability to leave Aberdeen and Daymar. So you're just kind of being abandoned.
Typical.
The first pleasure.
Yeah. Yep. And it's sort of like this sort of, you can see the full story, and also it explains why the Valakar are there and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So blame the Banu for that one, by the way. So you can see one of the biggest complaints I've had for a long time is that CIG has a lot of story, has a lot of world building and interesting ideas, but almost none of it is in the game. And now, so the last 2 years, we've had slowly but surely those elements have become more parts of the game, to the point where, 4.1 releases and we have 3 new factions. We have a brand new alien. We have an alien whom you can communicate with in the verse. Yeah. They're just a head and torso right now, but we had nothing until now. So these are some cases small, in some cases big steps towards more narrative in the universe, and the universe fleshing out to the point where players are interested in who are the Banu, why are they here, beyond just the Banu merchantmen. Why are the Valakar here? What are the Valakar doing? What is this Hathor group? Why are the Frontier Fighters doing what they're doing? What's regen? All these sorts of things that have sort of been in the periphery are starting to become more important because people are interacting with them. And as CIG gets better at it, hopefully it'll improve.
Yeah, so Keenan, this kind of gets into where we are now, so I don't want to go too specific on this, but like how important is like all the latest patches are narrative based. And I think the timing is important because we're about to launch Squadron 42 next year, so we're building that story, we're building that universe. But it seems like every patch now is a movement towards a storytelling driven mission. How important is that to you, and how important do you think it is to the community?
Depends on which camp you come from. Some people want a game to play right now. Some people want to see the game get made. Depending on which side you're on and how much you're in each one is how disappointed you are. I mean, I'm very much a feature first person. So as much as I want to see the game be stable so people can enjoy it, because I want to see people enjoy the game, I also want to see it be made. I'd love to see engineering in the EPTU right now. I'd love to know what's going on with quantum travel. And I would absolutely love to see more development go into Reputation. But CIG has made their mission clear for this year. So I've tried to recalibrate my expectations a bit. And I'll say, if you don't have the features that are exciting and keeping people hyped up to be in the game, and you've got a game that kind of works, lay on some narrative to keep people coming back. And that's really what they're focused on, is like they just want people to play the game right now. They need people engaged. So I think that repetitive narrative based things that give people a little sense of FOMO, a little sense of something new, something different for Star Citizen, but also it's kind of loosening the shoulders up a little bit. We haven't had like good voice acted narrative stuff outside of Mission Givers since 2.6 in like 2017. So this is an entirely different change when it comes to Star Citizen for some people. Literally just a simple idea of talking to somebody as you get close to a space station. So now we see that they're talking about this for 4.1.1, and the trend is clearly continuing because they know it's going to keep people engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts on this before we move on to the next segment?
It was well stated.
I will go on record because I give the narrative team a lot of flack, but I will go on record to say that we give too much garbage to Elliot. We always blame Elliot for all his missions not working. But I will say I have seen Elliot do work. The Siege of Orison is Elliot's baby, and that thing is the best narrative mission that CIG's ever created. Yeah. It's not Shakespeare, it's Die Hard. But you know what? Sometimes you need to yippee-ki-yay, you know, in the universe. Like it's good for what it needs to do, and I know that he can do it, and if he can do it, his team can do it. Yeah. So I'm hoping that with the right tools and time, they'll be able to make every mission Siege of Orison, at least in terms of engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I'll say, I just real quick, I was really unsure about what their plan, their plan for this year. I was very iffy on it. I had a lot of, things to say about it. And ultimately, though, I'll say I've been playing more than I've ever played, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So, it's working.
Yeah,
it's working. I've never been more invested in the story. You know what I mean? Than I have before. And it's funny, Paul's on here. I've been going back and watching a lot of lore videos and stuff because, again, you'll learn a seed of something, right? You'll learn something about the Hathor group or some other group, and then that leads to someone they're connected with, and then to a bigger story. So, it's caused me to sort of reinvest. So, yeah, it's worked.
Absolutely. Coniff, I want to give you the floor if if you want to before I move on.
No, I don't have anything on lore specifically, but I do like that they put story in through emails. Like that's a very Bethesda thing to me. Like my favorite part of those games is finding a terminal and just reading what happened here. Like why is the state of things the way it is? So I really enjoy that element of storytelling when it's indirect and not just here's someone telling you here's what happened. Go here.
Well, it's like Elder Scrolls, right? You walk around, and you find those books, and you read books. I spend more time reading books in that game than I do anything else.
You
Yeah.
have no idea how much I'd love to see to just relive my experience with Morrowind, just sitting there going, I'm going to read all these books so I know exactly what's going on.
Yep.
I'm hoping that CIG gets to that point, but
That would be cool. That would be cool. It'd be cool to see the kiosk, the TV screens, when you're on a shuttle, seeing the screens like telegraph or have the news, actually play. I think step in the right direction is the load screens, like having the news articles as your loading screen. I think that's a great step in that direction for sure. Yeah, it's a creative way to tell the narrative. Before we get into the second segment, in between the second and third segment, we're going to give away our next ship. But this, I just want to take a couple of seconds. I want to take y'all to our website, beyondtheversehq.com. We have a couple things going on right now. If you go to shop and merch, we have a limited edition 100th episode t-shirt to go get yours. The guests will be given a free shirt, so I need y'all's mailing addresses so I can send them your direction. But this shirt, I actually have one. It's great quality. I'm kind of wearing the white version of it, but all proceeds go towards Extra Life. It's our philanthropy for this year. So let me just show you all that. So again, beyondtheversehq.com. Go to give, go to Extra Life. This takes you to our donation page. We've already we went from like $850 up to $900 just in the last couple minutes. So thank you for your donations. But this is a full pass through, 100% pass through. All money goes towards the Dell Children's Hospitals around the United States for pediatric medical equipment and healthcare services, etc. So 2 ways to give, and you get a t-shirt out of it as well. So
pretty cool.
Yeah, we're trying to do something different this year and use our presence for good. So I know y'all do the same.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Always trying to give back to the community. Where are we now? 4.1.1.1.1. However many numbers we want to throw in there. We are now in 4.1.1. It's with Evo Kadi testing in the PTU. So let's take a look at current state of the game. And I want to start with Coniff again as this quote unquote average player. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Like, I think you're probably the more typical gamer out of the five of us.
Don't listen to him, Coniff. He's calling you a filthy casual.
Yeah,
He's legitimately right.
He's been demoted in our organization, just to be very clear.
Number of times.
No, but as a quote unquote average gamer, like what are you wanting out of the game right now? Like when you take a look at what currently is in, you log in, hopefully it's a little faster than what it used to be, but you're able to do like one mission every hour. It seems the cadence is. Are you getting what you want out of Star Citizen? And if not, how close do you think we are to experiencing that perfect state for you?
So I had a chat with some above average Star Citizens in Groza and Shoe Swapper, both members of Soul Provision, listeners of Beyond the Verse. Just to get their feel as well, because I'm just one man I'm like very easy to please when games. Can I log in and spend an hour to 2 hours escaping the mentalness of work? Yes, great. And so for me, and them, we had a long chat about this. The number one thing I believe is group play. And Groza quoted what he said specifically was, now there's lots of stuff to do that's just existing in the verse. Yeah. And so I kind of align myself to that in that I just want to be able to log in, hop into Discord with friends, and just do something. I'm not playing necessarily for any sort of motive. I think unlike probably you guys, where you've got this enigma about you, all four of you, that you're maintaining, obviously creating content, you've got this sort of, I hate to say expectation, but I know from a content creator's perspective, that does tend to creep up. I'm just a guy that goes in and I want to be able to go in and have things for myself to do, me and my friends to do. But at the same time, I also want it to work. and I don't want a 30K, and I don't want to, be in an elevator and then suddenly I'm in space. I just want it to work, but I want to be able to do stuff. And personally, I think the game is offering that now. There were periods where it was not. We've all talked about 3.18, and then there was the 3.20 something patch where you couldn't play for like 11, 12 days,
Yeah.
Sulyce, because something was broke. Like, you couldn't do those things. You just wanted to get in and play.
Yeah.
So for me, group play is kind of the thing. Like, that's what I want out of it. I just want it to work. I want to be able to log in, have fun with people. I think we're close to that. As we've already talked about a number of times, especially with one of the early questions, there's a lot of things, a lot of systems in the game that are still being worked on. They're still needing that love, like one of your question guys asked.
Yeah.
And that'll come over time.
Yeah.
But as long as there's no regression, as long as Tomato said, we've hit that plateau, we're taking a breather, and we don't start to climb up the mountain and then fall back, 50, 100 feet back past the plateau. That would be probably the worst case scenario. I just want to see systems increase and things that I can do with my friends be implemented.
Yeah, absolutely. Shameless plug for Soul Provision, but we were averaging now 30, 35 people in org night. And so this past one, I wasn't there. I'm obviously dealing with some family issues that most of you know about. But I wasn't there, unfortunately, but there was 30, 35 of y'all holding the fort down in the Hathor mining area. And that ended up getting, like, for science, I think, quoted a story about what was going on with Soul Provision. So, yeah, I think being in an org, like all four of us have orgs to be a part of. And I think that'll be a whole different game for you, a whole different game when you get into the right group with the right people. There's nothing like multi-crewing in this game for sure. 100%. Grim, kind of along the same lines, I want to go with you, but as a content creator, as somebody who spends hours on the Fleet Viewer and making sure all that is up to date, which thank you, by the way, I can't tell you thank you enough. How does somebody like you, and I kind of want the rest of us to answer this as well, how do content creators, how do those of us trying to build that content for the game, how do you divide your time? Are you actually playing the game? Are we playing the game, guys?
There's definitely been stretches where I haven't played for like 4 or 5 months for sure. And sometimes that is when a project was ongoing, like especially when we were getting ready or when we were building Fleet Viewer before it launched.
Sure.
But there's also been times where the game just doesn't behave for me. You know what I mean? I think I know around 3.9 to 3.13. For all those patches, I could not play. It was completely unplayable. So, and then there's been times where I'm just not into it. You know what I mean? And I'm playing other games and enjoying those. There's always the Starjump side of things, like keeping Fleet Viewer up and some of the other content we do. That's actually been kind of a nice outlet for me because I can do that and still enjoy the idea of the game without having to play it all the time and get frustrated. You know what I mean? If the game's not behaving, I can step away, I can play something else and still do the out of game stuff and kind of feel good about the project still, you know what I mean? And not get soured over it just because a patch is not working out for me. So
sure.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a balance. So
yeah, I remember spending more time when I was part of the lore seekers for Elder Scrolls Online. I remember spending more time reading books than actually playing the game. Mm-hmm. Right? I guarantee you, the AstroPub over there is doing the same thing.
It's part of the game. Okay,
sure.
I'd argue that it's part of the experience. Everyone has their own different experience. Yeah. Some people shoot each other. Some people shoot AI. Some people want to mine and do other things. I drop in giant stompy mechs and then try to find dusty artifacts and abandoned outposts. Okay, everyone has their own way. That's what a sandbox game's supposed to be. So
yeah,
your way sounds pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Not gonna
Yeah.
lie. I want to be in your crew in a stompy mech.
Yeah.
2-person stumpy mech. Like,
I think that's kind of the same, by the way, for some of the developers, especially some of the developers talked to, like Gavin Rothery being one, who's a freelancer who designs a lot of ships for Star Citizen. A lot of those people sort of get to live vicariously through the work and not necessarily playing the game, and just like Paul really loves mechs, there's people like me and Gavin that just really love spaceships, whether it's in Star Citizen or movies or whatever. So, you're still enjoying the game and its universe and its community, even if you're not playing all the time. So
Yeah, I only play probably once or twice a week, and it is exclusively on stream.
Yeah.
If I wasn't streaming, I probably wouldn't be playing that much. And just like with, Gavin, or as Grim is saying himself, lives and enjoys the game vicariously through the ships. I do through the features and the development. That's kind of what really got me with this game, was just being able to see something like this be created from the behind the scenes. And I love the game. I actually am a lot like Coniff, where I really just want to be able to get into the game and do stuff and just live throughout. But I definitely spend a lot more time talking about it now than playing it.
The life of a creator, right? And you're also you're also moving. You have a lot of personal stuff going on as well, so that doesn't help. Any sort of
yeah.
free time.
I don't really play video games too much outside of this.
Yeah, I can relate, brother. I can relate. And I'm staying with you. Keenan, because you mentioned development, you mentioned features. Like, I know that about you, and so my question for you is like, what is prohibiting us from having that like breakthrough moment? I feel like when I wrote this question, this is my thought process. Like, I feel like we're so close. I feel like we are so close. Like, we just did server meshing, which is super sexy. Like, yeah, let's brag about it. It's great. But even with server meshing, I feel like that was underappreciated almost. Like, it came out and we were like, okay, great. Like, we're still playing the game. More people, great. I feel like we're so close to having that breakthrough moment where Star Citizen matters. It's competitive. Put stability aside. I feel like we're missing something. What is reputation? You think that's it? Some structure of rep?
We need more complex reputation, because that drives security, that drives safety, that drives the competitiveness you're talking about. You have reputation. You can define who gets what cargo hauling job. You define who gets to enter what outpost, or who gets what jobs, or what storefront you can go to. You get discounts at this storefront. You get better refining yields at that mining or that refinery station because it's a company that you work for. Like, reputation is such a big tool that has just been kind of sitting limp. It's like the overly soggy wet tomato sitting on the burger, and like nobody wants to touch it because this tomato is just sogging it all up. And I know why. Like, the mission team got saddled with the reputation system, and the mission team's already low on resources. So I didn't expect them to fly off the walls with reputation over the last few years, but I think everybody can agree that it first kind of started coming in around 318, and we were really expecting to get into Pyro and be all about, oh yeah, it's still got its own law system because these gangs are holding up their own law, but it still doesn't quite do it. And then on top of that, we don't have security. So even things like Hathor really suffer because reputation in general is not making the big changes to the game it needs to.
Do you feel like Fight for Pyro kind of made, I guess, initial steps in that direction? Like,
I think they are. Yes, that was the first time they introduced hostility with reputation, and I think that was their way of introducing that feature with a little bit of a narrative cover over the top. Because back in the day, that would have been a card on the roadmap. They would have said, "Oh yeah, we've got hostility with these NPCs," and maybe it still was a card. I don't quite remember, but this time it was just kind of packaged into Fight for Pyro and the release of 4.0. And I think that's sort of their test case for this reputation hostility before they start branching it out to more factions.
Sure. Grim, when it comes to spaceships, kind of the same question. Like, is there a feature or is there something tech-wise that we're just missing with spaceships that would kind of move the needle or have a breakthrough moment? I know base building, we mentioned that a couple hours, or at this point probably hours, but a couple minutes ago. But what's on your mind?
Well, besides gameplay loops, and I think there are plenty of ship gameplay loops that are going to be important, and some are. There's some that I think are pretty criminally underrated. I've said many times on my own that I think Mine Lane and the Nautilus is going to be a big deal, a lot bigger deal than people think. But ultimately, what I think is going to sort of flip the switch on ships is probably resource management and whatever the full breadth of that ends up being, because I think there's the system side of it, but also includes like ancillary stuff that is also tied to it, like fire and all that stuff. So that all of that encompassing multi-cruise ship experience, I think, is going to be the biggest deal. I mean, the most fun I ever had in Star Citizen, and I've had a lot of great experiences, but the most fun I've ever had was randomly one night going out with 3 or 4 of my friends, and we did salvage in the Reclaimer, and it ended up being the best experience I had, and I didn't expect it to be. So I think when multi-crew gameplay really locks in for ships, that'll be like their, line in the sand where they become they become almost a core feature in and of themselves. Keeping your ship up. But all of that just from a global standpoint, and this will affect ships too. For me, it's just no more resets. You know what I mean? When right now you can get in the game and you can have fun, but you're doing it to have fun, right? Everything we're getting right now is kind of temporary. So when there's no more resets and we're going in to build a in-game legacy, so to speak, like most people do when they play MMOs, I think that'll be the big moment.
Yeah.
Can I interject, Sulyce,
Please,
on
yeah.
something Grim was saying?
Yeah.
The ship crew concept is my entire drive for this. I love the idea of being crew to someone else's operation. I like ships. I don't really care to own them or like even through in-game currency. I just want to be a crew member on someone's ship and have things to do on that ship. Being a cog in their little machine, like the Reclaimer, like you said, I was on a Reclaimer once doing a mine. Like that was a ton of fun. Just going through the motions, going and finding the derelict ship and all that stuff. But gearing up to help someone mine or run security as like a soldier, like when we did the 890 jump point tour that we did in the Org Night. Yeah. Just role playing as a security guard on an 890 jump. Like that's the type of stuff that I enjoy because it gives me something to do and it involves ships, which ultimately are Star Citizen's greatest asset. Yeah. That's my dream crew.
I've tried to make a case for people like you so much, and you'd be surprised how much pushback there is from people thinking that you just don't exist. There's nobody who could possibly not want to fly ships in this game. Everybody wants to fly a pilot.
No, I really don't. Like, I mean, the M50, because we have talked about that already. I like to fly that ship. And I love I love seeing them. The Constellation Phoenix, I think, was the first time. It was some YouTube video of a guy touring it, and that was my moment where I was like, you mean I can be walking around on this like luxury interior and go to the pilot's seat and the whole thing is moving through like quantum? Like that was mind-blowing, but I just want to be a part of someone else's ship and story.
And Coniff, and I think resource management ties directly into that. It's giving you something to do while on that ship. We do have a little bit of that now, being an extra person on board or manning a turret. But when that expands out, and it's not just resource management, it'll include scanning and all that, scanning gameplay. When those other roles on a ship become active, I really do associate, put the manufacturer and the exact ship aside. I really look at ships and their sizes the same way I look at playing what you said earlier with World of Warcraft. I look at, the solo experience, the multi-crew experience where you're going into a dungeon, and the big, large to capital ships where you're in a raid, right? It's different levels of responsibility, different levels of organization, and you know, it's a bad pun, but the ships are our vehicles to the gameplay loops, right? They're how we're going to interact with them. So they're really important, and I think ultimately that multi-crew thing is something CIG has to nail, because I hear from so many people that is a big reason why they're playing this game. So
Love it. Love it. And so, Paul, we're going to wrap up with you on where we are currently in Star Citizen. We've heard a lot about game loops and ship loops and where we are with tech. Which one is the most complete of all the things that we can do? What's the most complete game loop?
Mining.
Okay.
Yeah,
when it works,
mining is the most complete. I mean, there are some issues, like the surface mining has some issues, some bugs right now, but like the fact that you have hand mining, vehicle mining, ship mining, you have various different locations where you can find the resources, the actual places to go to refine those resources are intentionally further away from the best ones are intentionally further away from the locations of where they are, so that you can have more dynamic engagement. And we're already CIG is moving towards having surface mining, where you can just attach a ship like a Pioneer to the ground, and then it can start sucking up resources from the ground passively or through some system we haven't seen yet. So like mining is basically done. They're effectively just, we even have mining gadgets. We have a mining mech. Like mining is a thing that has been in the game the longest next to combat. And I'd argue that combat still isn't ready. There's missing significant numbers of things like damage states, armor, engineering is hugely important. Well, engineering and those things.
Oh yeah, all that.
Yeah, there's so many repair. There's so many issues that combat has still that like just aren't in the game yet. They're in Squadron, as they've said. They just haven't moved them over to Star Citizen yet. And if you compare it to even its closest cousin, Salvage, we have two. You have the power wash simulator, and you have Thanos snapping, and that's it. And like, that's all you have. There is no like real.
What'd you call that?
Removing components.
Hold on, Thanos snapping. Is that the grid locking?
Thanos snapping.
Okay,
that's going to be on the back of the box. That's
going to be on
the back of the Star Citizen box.
Thanos snap, your first spaceship.
It's you take out the giant tuning fork.
Yeah.
You stick it towards the claw, the tuning fork that used to be a claw, and you stick it towards your ship, and then it vibrates until it turns into dust, and then you suck up the dust. Like that is a placeholder for a placeholder. It was a placeholder that they put in there because Chris said, "I promised to get the salvage loop at least somewhat introduced before the end of this year." So they just said, let's just do it like this until we can get more stuff in.
Interesting.
There's like, even cargo is missing significant elements to it, even though it's probably more simple than the rest of them. So yeah, mining is almost certainly the best right now. And it's also clear now why mining is so important, because crafting and base building are built off of mining. Yeah. So without mining being good, you don't see crafting or base building. So.
Yeah, with salvage, we're still missing. Is it called siphoning? Is it siphoning?
Yeah, siphoning.
Siphoning fuel. We're missing salvaging components completely, because you can't salvage all the components. We're missing subcomponents for engineering, which is also important for salvage. We're missing like the fail states for ships and stuff like that, like more danger. Like there's no danger in salvaging a ship. It's not going to explode if you're salvaging it. Versus like with mining, there's a clear indication of you're about to explode if you mess up. So like there's very little skill implemented in salvage yet. It's just sort of there. Plus reverse salvage repair, is only very basic right now. So
I would even argue that, and you may agree with this, but I would even argue like harvesting, things from animals, the Valacar and stuff, is really just mining.
It is mining.
It's kind of mining with a different skin on it.
They literally say you use the mining laser to do it. So it's like, exactly. you're literally mining just animals.
That's true.
How I mine for fish is for WoW folks,
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Everybody in agreement? We think the mining loop is the most most
Yeah.
polished. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Definitely.
I absolutely agree. Okay, we are at an hour and 20 minutes. I promised my guests we wouldn't go beyond 2 hours. Thanks for the 30-minute late start for myself. So let's go ahead and give our second giveaway. So I've deleted the random. So Dansek, you won the first one. We're going to give one more golem away real quick and then back to where we expect the game to be going. And we'll wrap up the podcast and the 100th episode at that point. So here we go. Rand, let's make this happen. Here. Oh, I can't believe I just did that. Noob move. Now let's sort by the largest. Here we go. Crystal Keys. Congratulations. Crystal Keys, you are the winner of a golem with concierge paint and lifetime insurance. Congratulations.
Nice.
Very good. Very good.
You now own a ship by the best manufacturer in the verse.
So we're going to skip you for the next 30 minutes. Muting.
Did my part. I did my part.
You know,
I did my part.
I like Drake.
I know.
Great.
I've said this many times, and I'll continue to say it again. Like, I drive a Jeep, so you would expect me to like the duct tape version of spaceships.
Yep.
100%. It's 2955. Why are we still flying around with duct tape, connecting our ships together? So.
Do you take your origin ships to Pyro, Solus? You need a Drake and Pyro.
Yeah, Origin does not do well in combat, for sure. All right, where we are headed. Coniff, actually, I'm going to start with you, buddy. We sort of touched on it a little bit, so just kind of summarize your overall feelings here, but in 5 years. So in 5 years, I do think we'll have 1.0 in 5 years. Call me crazy. But Squadron 42 comes out next year. Star Citizen 1.0 hits in 5 years. What do you hope to see as the end state? Do you think it's CitizenCon 2954? Do you think it's base building and the bases are up in space and that's the ultimate end game? Are raids, are instanced raids the end game? Like, where do you see Star Citizen going in the next 5 years? Or where do you hope it goes in the next 5 years?
I think there's something to the base building piece, because if people didn't care about base building, space station building, whatever that looks like, then why is the world's biggest MMO putting housing in this year? Because people want to be able to exist in the world that they spend all this time in.
Sure.
And MMOs used to fulfill a role of hanging out. Like, they kind of got away from that for a while. But I mean, back in 2004, earlier with RuneScape, earlier with Unreal, whatever, not Unreal, Ultima, people played these games to interact with their friends. Maybe they would chit-chat on AIM or whatever the tool was back in the day, but you would log in.
You just dated yourself, dude.
Oh, well.
AIM. Sorry, I had to.
They would play.
I feel you. All right. As a fellow AIM user, thank you.
Yeah.
Gave you some validation. Ultimately, playing those games was a way to hang out with your friends. You get home from school. Can I go over to so-and-so's house? No. Okay, I'm going to log into my favorite video game and chop trees with them in RuneScape for 4 hours. That type of thing, again, and I'm kind of like a broken record on this, as far as this relation to Star Citizen, but just being able to exist in the verse and do stuff. Looking back on 2 years, there's a lot more to do now than there was. 90% of that is mining, as Paul pointed out, but there's still a ton to do. And in 5 years from now, plus with a single player game out that'll bolster, people's interest in Star Citizen as a whole, more of these systems will get, worked on. And that's it. And then the community, I did want to add this before I wrap this thought up, but the community has always been very good about inventing ways to have fun.
Yeah.
Before there was a racetrack in game, people were doing races, around different planets or whatever. that, you know, you guys, Soul Provision or Beyond the Verse community, did a murder mystery 890 jump experience. And I wasn't there for it, but I had Groza give me, or he sent me like the placards. And I mean, he put a ton of time into that experience, wrote backstories for everybody, just hanging out on an 890 jump and playing real life Clue or virtual Clue, I guess. Like that type of thing, you're just going to see more of that. And the more systems that come online, the more tools that community leaders will have. So for us, or for me and you, or for, you know, whomever, content creators, like, just more to do, more things to engage with, more big stompy mechs with guns to read books inside. Like, there's just more things that are going to be here. If the past 2 years are any indication, like 5 years from now, just more.
Yeah, I feel that. Keenan, are we nearing a point where the surprises are over? Like, I feel no. You think there's more in store?
Yeah. You ever jump into Star Citizen and do something that you've been doing for years and just be like, wow,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that every time a new feature finally clicks, and so many features haven't clicked yet. Now, maybe not surprises in terms of, oh, I would not have expected that. But I think surprises in terms of the fact that things actually get into the game. Like, I'm sorry, it pains me to say, but it's taken so long for some of these systems to come into the game that for some people it is a genuine surprise when they get added. And I think the coherency between these features that have been built to work in a certain way that for such a long time have depended on a game experience that's been broken and not worked the correct way will be surprising to a lot of players. Like, the first time somebody's out in their ship and something happens where their ship shuts down and the game instructs them to go into the back and do a quick swap of a fuse or a repair of their component, and their ship boots back up and they can get going somewhere else, they're going to be like, oh, wait a second. And then I can like change these parts out and make my ship better. And then you can also make your ship fly faster now, we know, from changing those components. And it's like, there's going to be a whole world of things for people to discover with these features that are supposedly coming in the next few years that I think will keep it pretty fresh for folks.
Yeah. Paul, can lore help drive that? I'm assuming with the evidence from the last quarter, it could help drive some of that surprise. Aliens, right? Aliens in the game, like Wicklow is phenomenal. But do you think lore is going to help with that?
Lore, in my mind, so Star Citizen is at its core a sandbox game. And I like ESO, and I like the Elder Scrolls in general. Sure. But I want CIG to steer away from the types of stories that ESO was telling, where effectively it's still like, you're still the chosen one, you know, the Neverine or the Dragonborn or whatever. You just, what's the title in ESO? You're still the chosen one. It's just, you're now telling, it's more of a traditional, like, I think Final Fantasy does this as well, with Final Fantasy Online, and a lot of MMOs do that, where you're still playing a single player game, but now you're playing with other people.
Yeah.
And CIG, I'm hoping they steer away from that idea of where you're playing as the main character and the stories are happening around you. And so far, they seem to be doing that, where it's more big groups and such. And I think the big thing moving forward for engagement and for surprising would be things like adding characters like Wicklow. And they said that Wicklow's here to stay, and Wicklow's going to evolve over time, bringing back the old character, the old mission givers like Ticia Pacheco and Miles Eckhart and Wallace Klim and all of those folks, and giving them some story arcs, giving them some things that are going on, and introducing them into the conflicts that are going on in the game, so you have some character to latch onto. And those stories of those characters bouncing off of each other as the factions bounce off each other is really, in my mind, the way I see CIG moving forward with the story. And that sort of experience is probably going to be FOMO. I know that's not popular with everybody, but that's kind of how you tell stories, and especially in an online environment. But hopefully it's also evolving. So even if you weren't there for when Klim and Tisa Pacheco went to war with each other and you had to choose which side you're going to support. Even if you weren't there for that, you might be there 2 years later when the aftermath of that, the fourth or fifth event that happened after that, which is directly tied to the results of whatever that happened, goes on, so that you can have this sort of evolving narrative where the players have a stay in what's going on and help guide the direction, but aren't necessarily the main showrunners. Sure. I might be a little bit too much hoped imprinted on that, but I do think that that's the sort of thing that keeps things surprising and keeps things interesting, is them using the television analog of A story, A plot, B plot sort of thing works, because there's a reason why so many soap operas still exist today, because they have been building off of the stories for 50 years. And none of the original characters are there anymore, but people are still invested. People still show up to the stories,
Yeah.
So.
And I guess over to Coniff, I saw some large north-south head nodding. I'm assuming you're subscribed to that from an Elder Scrolls Online perspective. I do know what Paul's talking about, like being everybody's a hero. Vestige
is what they call you. And
yeah,
there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as far as story's concerned, like, it can only go up from here. I know, like, when I started, there were the mission givers, and that was about it. And now, they added this alien gentleman. So that type of thing is just, I'd love to see more of it, and it definitely plays a huge part in what's to come, especially with Squadron 42 coming out. I guess this would be my question, but like, how do we think they are going to integrate the Squadron 42 stuff into Star Citizen? Maybe they've said it. Maybe this is just ignorant Coniff, but is there like a short elevator answer to that?
It's always less than they're optimistic enough to tell us.
Okay.
Like when they brought over the star map from Squadron 42 into Star Citizen, it was like, yeah, okay, this is the star map from Squadron, but it's not quite the star map we were expecting for Star Citizen. So, yeah, and I don't know if there's a good cookie cutter answer, because the features they're working on right now are kind of different. Like Maelstrom is different from the quantum travel, is different from engineering. Although I guess they all are related to ships.
Yeah. Well, it's also a reminder that Squadron 42 actually takes place years ago, right? It's actually, we'll be playing next year a game that takes place prior to 2950, I guess 6 at that time. So I think that it can help, I think, but it's going to be more retroactive. It's going to be more like looking in the past.
And CIG did speak a little bit at CitizenCon, obviously, about this new main story structure that they're going to give Star Citizen. And I think ultimately it just comes down to how big of a actor are we on that main story stage, sort of going back to what Paul was saying, like, are we the hero, or are we just existing within this? I do think CIG does a lot of really cool things that I would love to see them continue to do more of. Like, for example, like back when they did the whole, was it the Imperator election stuff? It was interesting to see like the posters and stuff in game and stuff for that, and I would love for them to continue to do more of that to sort of bridge that. But I would imagine that main story that they're building for Star Citizen has some hooks from Squadron, even if it's just like background hooks, but something there, I'm sure.
And I'm just realizing you were talking mostly story and not features. Sorry, I'm obsessed with features.
Yep. And we'll actually wrap this up with Grim and kind of, I guess, changing the tone with this question. But since you are such a beloved, I'm going to call you a developer for the purpose of this question.
I want to get emails now.
I know, not employed by CIG. All right,
Yeah.
but you've created the Fleet Viewer and the Hangar Leak. I think these are huge tools that are being used by, I would venture to say, the majority of Star Citizen users. I'm curious how you see the evolution of this tool. Again, I think it's something that CIG probably should pay you for and buy from you, quite honestly, because it's such an awesome, like, I don't know why they don't do it themselves, but what you're doing is kind of the Lord's work over here. How does it evolve with the game in the next couple of years? Do you foresee it? And you can, I don't tell me however much you want to tell me. Do you see it evolving?
Well, with Fleet Viewer kind of goes hand in hand with StarFab to some degree, which is
Okay.
VMXEO, Ventivar, and James the Stormtrooper's project where StarFab is able to take game assets, bring them into Blender, rebuild them, and then we can export them, play with them. That's how many really cool images from data mines are materialized, and their software is really powerful. CIG's even used it in some stuff, so they've been a big help on Fleet Viewer. So we kind of, if they're able to do new stuff, we might bring it on. But Fleet Viewer is supposed to be pretty low friction and like easy. Like we didn't want to overload it with like a bunch of like data and stats and all this stuff. But one of the things that will probably come to Fleet Viewer is base building. The base building components and the modular pieces are something we're going to bring in to where you can kind of do base layouts in Fleet Viewer top down and sort of get a sense of how you want to lay out bases. That's an easy win to do. But that's kind of what Fleet Viewer will do, and it'll be his own thing. On the back, like behind the scenes, we are working on two bigger projects. One of them is paused for the moment, but it's a much bigger deal that has a lot of like more dynamic stuff going on called Fleet Command. And then there's another project that one of the Starjump members, Starlet, is overseeing. That it's her baby. I'm helping out on it, but it's an even much bigger deal and is going to tie directly into the game and affect a lot of other things. When we get down the road where mod support is there, but it's something that we're already thinking about and working on and testing and building and stuff like that. So there'll be other experiences we're doing, and Fleet Viewer will probably get base building and just more little quality of life things. So
I am probably going to spend hours in that alone. It's like a SimCity strategy game, but in Fleet Viewer.
Yeah, I will say one really cool thing is someone who does make a tool that people use, and hopefully more tools. The Star Citizen Tools community is a really cool group, and they're very supportive of each other. For example, a lot of times I'll see in Spectrum or something, people will say, "Oh, I like Fleet Viewer over Starship 42," or "I like Starship 42 over Fleet Viewer," whatever. And the funny thing is that like we're not competitors at all. Like me and Lenfasy talk all the time. Developer Starship 42. I love Starship 42. Me and Urkel and everyone else, we all communicate and we're all friends and we help each other out. We share assets, so there's no competition there. But there's a really good like tools community in Star Citizen. There's a Star Citizen modder and tools Discord that's really great that helps new people wanting to make tools, and that's a really awesome community. They're not like the spotlight's not usually on them like content creators or streamers, but they do build some stuff that people get a lot of use out of in this game. So, and there's like there's commodity sites and all those people that build those tools. Big shout out to all of them. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important. One, to highlight all the work that you and the team, are doing, but it's part of the game. Like I've always, I appreciated World of Warcraft when they had the WoW Armory. It was an app on your phone and you could move, armory pieces around on your character, like outside of the game. Anything that Star Citizen can do outside of the game, because some of us travel for work and we're not always in front of our game. Like, I want to be able to do all that crap, and it sounds like what you're doing is along those lines. So thank you for that.
And I have no doubt they will do that when Star Citizen's further along. I expect a companion app. They may do some sort of fleet manager experience outside of the game. I fully expect all that stuff. And CIG has been very supportive. When we first released Fleet Viewer, they got in contact. They were very, very appreciative. They did, funny little story though, they did consider having us remove some Squadron 42 stuff, like the Retribution,
Mm,
but they ended up saying that that all the higher ups at CIG really loved Fleet Viewer, so they didn't want us to remove anything, which was awesome. So they've been very
perfect.
supportive and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, great. Guys, we are at an hour and 50 plus 30 minutes of the beginning of this, but we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I just want to take a second. I don't have notes. I don't have this written out, but I just want to give a heartfelt thank you to each one of you. Not to make things melodramatic or over the top here, but I would not be where I am today, 100 episodes in, without the support and without y'all being here for the ride. Every single one of you have contributed and supported me in your own way, and it has meant the world to me. This is my first solo endeavor, but I haven't really been solo. I've had y'all. I've had friends, and I would consider y'all true friends. It's been a blessing knowing y'all. I can't wait for the next 100. Can't wait to have y'all on for more episodes. But I just wanted to share that from the bottom of my heart, my sincere love for y'all. Really do appreciate y'all being here for the 100th. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank
man.
you for your
Appreciate it.
part in the
Likewise, for
community,
sure.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you listening, either on Spotify, on podcast, watching on YouTube, blessings to you as well. I obviously am not here today without you, but love every single one of you. I'll be doing this of just the one listener, one viewer. And I think that's the same sentiment that the rest of us share as well. So thank you so much. Love every single one of you. Let's go around the horn real quick. How can we get more of you? Coniff, top left. We're going to go kind of clockwise. So we want more Coniff.
I guess show up to Org Night and Soul Provision. I've done content creation before. I had a podcast called Questing the Multiverse. I have a YouTube channel. I don't put out YouTube videos. Life just took a turn mid 2024, and just priorities shifted. Focusing more on kids and being a husband and
stuff that matters.
Working.
Yeah,
No.
important stuff.
Yeah. So content creation, whatever. Every now and then I'll get the urge to put something out there. But if you want me, come to Soul Provision Org Night.
There you go.
Well, you've been with me. You've been with me for 8 years now, since Elder Scrolls Online into New World. So you're going to continue being here along for the ride. So thank you, brother.
Yep.
Space Tomato. Well, you have like 6,000 channels. Which one are you going to plug?
We have a few channels. If you go to just Space Tomato on YouTube, you'll find all the channels linked up on there. But yeah, the main channel is generally where I try to put like the higher quality, sort of lightly opinion but heavily news-based stuff. Space Tomato 2's got our podcast, deep dives, and just like daily news kind of stuff. And then Space Tomato Plays is all gameplay. We also have our personal channel, me and Mrs. Tomato. We do the tomatoes together, where we put up like our just like personal life updates and our cooking stream videos and stuff. So a couple different places to find us. You can also really find Space Tomato on any social media, or hit us up on Discord or Twitch.
And do me a favor, send my regards to Mrs. Tomato. She's always a blessing to work with. Like she's really like obviously awesome to coordinate with whenever I'm trying to get you on the show. But she's a sweetheart, man.
Top management.
You married well.
She's much better at keeping the times together than I am.
Yeah, you married well. I look forward to meeting her as well whenever we have the chance to get together.
Yeah.
So, Grim, talk to us.
Yeah, both on YouTube and Twitch at Starjump_Grim. Obviously, go to StarjumpFleetViewer.com if you want to check that, both that and Hanger.link out. I definitely should give a shout out to the other Starjump members, Starjump Ender, Starlet, and VMXEO, who do a ton of stuff, within our group. We did just start another channel, and has been doing content for that called Starjump Academy that will be all centered around the new player. And then Starlet and VMXEO. There definitely would be no Fleet Viewer without them too. And yeah, we're always doing stuff. So you can always just on Twitch and YouTube, it's Starjump_Grim.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Paul, wrap us up, man.
Well, you can find me like Tomato in many places. But for my lore content, you can find me at youtube.com/theastrohistorian. For my gameplay content and other sort of things like updates on, you read through monthly reports, go through the roadmap updates, try to piece together what CIG is putting together for the game. It's youtube.com/the AstroPub. And my new channel for my podcast, the Captain's Table podcast, which is now running 9 years as of this year.
That's incredible.
Dang, man.
Yeah.
Where we talk about Star Citizen lore, news, and more. Do those on Saturdays, but you can find that live and recorded on youtube.com/at the Captain's Table podcast. And with that, I'm also like almost at partner levels for YouTube for that one. I'm like 50 subscribers away at that point. So hopefully if y'all been looking for the Captain's Table podcast and where's it been going? It's at its new place, youtube.com/the Captain's Table podcast, because I can't get a normal name on YouTube until I get the 10,000 or the 1,000 subscribers for whatever reason. But
now this is
49 left.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Boom.
Hey.
Nice.
Go subscribe. So personal question. How's your partner with authoring books? Is she on her second one at this point?
She's on her second one.
Heck yeah,
I'm
dude.
not gonna say the name.
That's fine.
Because the name she's trying to she still has to get all the rights for it and everything stuff like that.
Fair.
But
Yeah.
I will say it is
exciting.
a story about a woman who is suffering from grief attached to a home that she lived with her partner with, that is now haunted. So it's kind of like, what if you didn't want to leave the
Sick.
house, but the house is also haunted? You know.
love
So
it.
she likes to describe her style as Stephen King meets slice of life.
Okay.
So a little bit of personal, like, daily life things mixed in with the sort of unsettling horror of a Stephen King story. So
Very
if you like
exciting.
that sort of psychological horror stuff, go check it out. Her first book, Panic Eyes, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, pretty much any place you can get it. It's also available in ebook reader and hopefully soon audiobook format. So
Very good. And Keenan, were you about to say something? I don't.
No, I was just saying it sounded like a good book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right, for us, beyondtheversehq.com is where you can go to find everything. All of our links to all of our socials, anything you can imagine is there. We are giving to Extra Life this year for children's hospitals around the United States. It's 100% pass through. I don't see anything. Go get that limited edition t-shirt. If you want to become part of the conversation, you can email us at contact@beyondtheversehq.com. Become part of Soul Provision, our in-game organization, at soulprovision.com. It's a phenomenal group, averaging 30-35 org night, but about 300 strong, and we're super passionate about where we're going and what we're doing. Our board of directors, which, by the way, let me take a second. Board of directors, right? Groza Marauder, Mustang. Thank you so much for being who you are. We don't have a community without you as well. But I hope this finds everybody well. Safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. Take care, everybody.